coming up. Deputy President William Ruto now says the BBI campaigns across the country are pointless as they are only aimed at popularizing ODM leader Raila Odinga ahead of 2022. Familiar face. Anyway, has media exaggerated the political rifts within Jubilee, or is it reality of things falling apart?
Media has actually tried to create insinuations that there is a rift between leaders.
Vyombo za habari tunataka wawachiwe kitu ambacho inaitwa freedom ya utangazaji.
Your views on the news, and we ask whether the media is being used, misused, or utilized in the issues of politics in the country. So let's meet our first panel of the year. Right next to me is Eric Odwor. He is a sub-editor here at the East African newspaper, but as well as the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Journalists. I'm sure he'll have one or two comments about the state of journalists and journalism as the year closes and as we start looking forward. But that's a bit later. Next to him is Roslyn Obala. She is a vice chairperson of the Political Journalists Association of Kenya, and just recently actually got an appointment within the board of the Media Council. Congratulations for that. And something else I've been told by Kennedy Mureithi, not for the press. Kennedy Mureithi, not a stranger to the screens. He is our senior political reporter here at NTV. Tunamuita Bundi pia, and that's for those who knew him when he was a bit of maybe my size, not where he is right now. Thank you. Let's get started with the views on the news and what people think about the media's role in the current political developments and seeming rifts.
I believe that for the past about 1 month or so, whatever we have been witnessing in this country, particularly in the mainstream media headline in the newspapers, for me, I think that's been quite insightful. It has been, it has not been giving hopes to Kenyans.
Wanahabari si wao si wale wameongea, bali ni wanasiasa. Wanahabari wanaendelea kufanya kazi yao na kuripoti kinachoendelea vile ilivyo.
Hakuna siku watu wa media wameongeza Raila kura ama wameongeza Uhuru kura ama Ruto kura. Hawa wanafanya kazi kulingana na ile vile wanaona.
Media siku hizi tunaona tu siasa ndio inaenea zaidi.
Vyombo vya habari ni kwamba wamekuwa kila wakati wakiegemea upande wa siasa, na hilo jambo limekuwa ambao limeleta hadhara katika nchi yetu ya Kenya, na tumekuwa na sisi kama Wanjiko tumekuwa na makasiriko sana, kwa sababu kila wakati mambo ambayo yanasumbua nchi yetu ambayo ni kando na siasa haiangalii, wala ambao ile jambo ambao wanaangalia ni masiasa tu.
Vyombo za habari tunataka wawachiwe kitu ambacho inaitwa freedom ya utangazaji, kwa sababu hawa wakifungiwa kutueleza maneno, nchi yetu itakuwa inarudi nyuma na tutakuwa tunajua chochote kuhusu ufisadi ama uongozi mbaya.
The role of the media should be to enlighten members of the public, but currently our media, the print media, the mainstream media, appears to have been taken hostage by politicians and are now serving the interests of political leaders. If you look at the type of headlines that our newspapers carry, it is totally unacceptable. It creates ethnic tension.
Media has actually tried to create insinuations that there is a rift between leaders. And there's a time, for a number of times, you've seen the Deputy President coming out to dispute some of the headlines because some of the headlines are misinforming. How can one government that the leaders have not come out to show that they are separated be insinuated by the media that they are actually separated? So in my very honest opinion, the media has stopped being as informative as it should be.
It should be actually the media that is bringing together the leaders and the BBI to addressing the challenges that it's supposed to do. But it is apparently the opposite.
Watu wako na makasiriko based on what some have said, and on our reportage, we're hell-bent on politics at the expense of other things that are affecting Kenyans. Kena, you're mostly on the political desk and political affairs. Respond.
Well, Mark, it's a very interesting day, and thank you, and Happy New Year to most of those we've not met. some who frequent other places we've met. But interestingly, the same people who are speaking right now on what the media is doing are the same people. If I went to the streets and gave them a microphone, asked them about family issues, they will not talk. But if you ask them anything political, these are the same people that will be very, very quick to answer and to want to talk about it. Others are saying that it is the media that is setting the agenda. Yes, that is our work. That is what we were taught in school. But then again, remember that on a daily basis, we are with these people. We cover them on a daily basis, and you know, and you actually get to hear what they do say, that all is not well. And we cannot be reporting what is not factual. Right. There is a board whereby if you feel like the information that is being given is not factual, you can actually go. Look at it. Yesterday's Sunday newspaper, the headline that it had, we are told the sales were too much. So it is not about us and politics, but we feed Kenyans what they consume.
All right, and to you, Rosalind, as you were following that, as the vice chair of the Political Journalist Association, yes, that's why I gave you the first response.
Yeah.
Yes, your response.
I think I also agree with Murairi that actually what they're saying is not actually what they want, because if you don't give them politics, they will say the media has been bought. So the media is just trying to give them what exactly they want to hear. And when you see leaders speaking differently, then obviously it's showing that there's something that is happening, because this is a government. It's not a Nusumkate government like what we had in the Grand Coalition government. So we expect that both the president and the deputy president and all the leaders in Jubilee speak in one voice. But when you hear one side ranting, then it tells you that the house is not in one.
Okay, and there's just at a glance, Eric, and if you look at the screen here, with what I'm looking at here, some of the headlines. Gloves are off. Gloves are off. Yes, there you can see it. Gloves are off in Uhuru Ruto political contest. And then there's this next one. This is the Standard. Ruto accuses Raila of using BBI to craft 2022 takeover. Then there's a Star. And this you see, is Uhuru Ruto marriage over? Tunachochea?
I don't think so, because if you read the stories, basically you'll find a situation whereby either side is attacking the other side. Like you can see, one of the headlines is talking about Ruto accusing Raila of using BBI to craft a 2022 campaign strategy. So how would you say that actually this story has been manufactured by the media? Because definitely Ruto is quoted there. There's video clips where Ruto is attacking BBI meeting that took place in Kisii. So basically what we are saying is that most these stories are not manufactured by journalists, but actually they come from the politicians. And if I respond to some of the comments that have been made by the viewers there, when Ruto speaks to his supporters, he's addressing his supporters. When Raila speaks, he's also addressing his supporters. When Uhuru speaks, he's also addressing his supporters. When a politician speaks, he's addressing his supporters or her supporters, because in politics it's all about your interest. So if you look at what Ruto is doing, Ruto is also trying to defend his political interest. When Raila is speaking, he's also defending his political interest. Yes. So that is why these stories are coming out, because, like Muredi has said, we interact with these politicians and the people who give us these stories. So as a journalist, what you're supposed to do when you're given these stories is just to do verification and also the right of reply, because political reporting is different from investigative reporting, because definitely you are just conveying what has been said, so long as you do not act as a conveyor belt. When you're given this story, what you're supposed to do is to verify and also reach out to the other parties so that you are able to come up with the accurate and balanced story. So the stories that are actually done, even all those headlines, they come from what a political contest that actually has begun ahead of 2022.
You've spoken of Kennedy Muredi, you've spoken of the edition yesterday of the Sunday Nation and how it's sold based on the particular headline. And there's how we frame our stories on TV and the bites that we put, those ones that are really punchy. You even go and watch them yourselves and you say, wah, apome amedunga. So let's listen to some of them over the weekend. And I believe you actually chose some of them because you were following those particular stories over the weekend. And yes, weekends give a lot of platforms to politicians, or at least a lot of stages where they go to address the wananchi. And this is a bit of what was captured.
Where do they find money to go campaigning for a document that has no opposition?
Tunataka kura ya maoni ije. hii kura maoni itakuja kabla mwezi wa Juni.
I know for a fact William Ruto, watu yake wote wamejipanga to try and embarrass the process ya building bridges initiative.
If you want a pure parliamentary system and change the governance structure of our country, give us a break. Go collect 1 million signatures.
Wale ambayo wanasema hii ni mbaya lazima wasikizwe. Wale ambayo wanasema hii ni mzuri lazima pia wafanye nini? Wasikizwe.
Watu wasikizwe. And there's then the issue of narratives that are out there. He's mentioned the BBI, and there's what the politician will go on stage to say, and it seems that they're the ones who form the agenda on how we will tell the story. But from your standpoint, from where you sit, what are the narratives being shaped, first of all, around the BBI? Because there are teams that are for and against. There is that, of course, of this is a ploy to edge someone out. What are the narratives at play?
Well, Mark, and these are the narratives that are actually even being advanced by the politicians themselves. One, there's the narrative that there's a new marriage in the offing, and this is a marriage between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga. That cannot be wished away. And it is said that the narrative was formed once they shook hands at the steps of Harambee. Number two, going by the sentiments that are being echoed every weekend, and these days to some extent during the weekdays, is that it is also a narrative to push out William Samoei Ruto, who is the deputy president of this country, and not give him an opportunity to be president in 2022. Now, the other narrative is those who are very close to the deputy president are pushing the narrative that President Uhuru Kenyatta has to come out clearly and tell Kenyans what wrong the deputy president has done for him to warrant not being supported in 2022 as per the pact that was made in 2013. We have clips of President Uhuru Kenyatta at a certain function saying that I will serve my 10 years and give my deputy 10 years to go to serve this country. So we have not been told, according to the narratives that are being peddled, they are saying that we have not been told anything to the contrary. So why should someone come and say that they are not giving us an opportunity? The other narrative, also coming from the deputy president allies, is that there is nowhere that President Uhuru Kenyatta has gone on record to renege on what he promised. So even in their support of President Uhuru Kenyatta, as they have been doing, they have been very categorical that we know that President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to support us. So that is the other narrative. The other narrative is that ODM leader Raila Odinga is being fronted to be given an opportunity to be the president of this country, having failed to get that opportunity for the several times that he has been there because of the deep state. The other narrative that is being driven is the fact that probably President Uhuru Kenyatta is playing Raila and William Ruto.
So we don't know which way.
I will not for certain. I was even discussing this matter with the managing editor, my boss Emmanuel Juma, early in the day, and he says that I have been in these streets for long. Now these are his words. I have been in these streets for long. I have covered, but never before has the politics of Kenya been as difficult to understand as this time round.
So how do we balance it? There's the narratives that he's mentioned, and perhaps you've identified even a bit more, and even in relation to the BBI, and whether these narratives are indeed related to what is now being pushed as a document for the country to bring the country together. Kumbe ni kitu ya watu kadhaa. What is our responsibility as these narratives are being pushed? And Kennedy has said, rightly so, they're pushed by the politicians. Do we just relay and let them play out, or now come in the middle and say this is perhaps, is there a middle ground in all this?
I don't think there's a middle ground, because what is the work of the media? It's to educate and it's to inform. Now, if we go back to when this report was launched last year, if you walk in the streets and ask any Kenyan, do you have the document? They will tell you they don't have it. So who are the people peddling this narrative? It's the politician. When this document was launched, the two principals, that's the president and the opposition leader, said the people should own it. Let it go to the people so that they can read it. But what we are now seeing is that the political class has actually hijacked this process. And they are picking pieces and pieces of what they need to tell Kenyans. Because this was a big document. And what we are hearing mostly, it's about the position of a powerful prime minister, an expanded executive, three-tier government. We are not hearing other sections. And this is document, I don't think it was only about the structure of government alone. There were many sections that were there. So us as a media, we cannot go out and start now telling Kenyans that this is what you need to listen. We need to give them all the sides and let the public decide.
But you know
now,
also,
what is taking people now is that already we are hearing what the politicians are saying. Look at the campaigns that we had in Kisii. Did we hear about the entire document? We didn't hear about that. Yes. What you are hearing was about 2022, how we are going to come together. And you're talking about inclusivity. When you talk about inclusivity, it's not about the big 4 communities. We are having 43 communities. So we are not listening to all this. And that's why even the speakers who are there, like the couriers, were saying, why don't we also have a discussion where we also have our own counties? When they start bringing that, then you hear that this conversation is actually not all in all.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about, again, inclusivity, we have a deputy president who is crying foul, who is supposed to be leading this process. But him and his lieutenants are saying we have been left behind. But we are hearing a section that is already going ahead with this document. And even the media, if you sit now and ask, have you ever held a hard copy of this document? We haven't. Even as we're just downloading like any other person. So where are we supposed to start with this? As much as people are bashing the media, that the media is pushing a narrative, we are just speaking what our leaders are telling us.
Kennedy, before you interject, and we need to take a break, but Eric, then is there an opportunity for us? Because on the day of the launch, actually the Daily Nation had, some pullouts. With the copy, an abridged version, and
was it a pullout that is editorial driven or a supplement that is driven by the owners and the
it was a supplement, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So it was not editorial driven. So a supplement actually serves the interest of the advertiser. And if you look at this particular one, it was
there anything wrong? First of all, let's clear that. Was there anything wrong with us?
Look at it this way.
Yeah,
look at it
an abridged version that had
because basically when a supplement comes, a supplement actually goes as per the business contract that the newspaper has with the advertiser. That is advertisement material.
Okay.
Editorial staff do not have any opportunity to interfere with that document, with the content of whatever is being circulated. So basically, the drivers of BBI, they were still trying to control the narrative, because if you put it as a supplement, it means that it's locked. There is no editorial touch that will actually give objective and accurate analysis of the document that is being circulated. So like it has been said, BBI is going to be the biggest fraud that this country can ever have, or in our lifetime. Because we've seen the processes since multi-party democracy in this country in the early 90s, the processes that have driven the change of the constitution to being multi-party politics and also to change the constitution. We've never seen a situation whereby a club of politicians, the bourgeois and comprado bourgeois, converge to protect their interest so that they control the narrative. If BBI was launched a few months ago, and at the moment, no one has a copy. We knew even before.
But are we failing because we have the downloaded versions and it's our duty? Someone might say, as media.
That's what I'm telling you, that we've seen these processes before.
Okay.
How such documents have been circulated to ensure that everybody is brought on board. You look at the way the steering committee that actually is driving this process, the way they controlled the document until a time people started speculating what is in the report. That is when actually the pressure was on them to release the document.
Well, perhaps now something will be done, or at least things will be clearer now that the expanded, mandate for the task force has been
that is going to say, like I'm saying, you see, if you want to analyze a process, you analyze a process against similar processes that have been there before. Like I'm saying that if you look at the processes that have been there before, all from pre-multi-party democracy to 1992 when we had the elections, when we had the IPPG, when we started the process of Fungamano initiative, From there until the Bombers and the Kilifi drafts, how they were made, until 2010 when we came up with the new constitution and the committee of experts in the mix, we've seen a process that was transparent. But this process is controlled, but that means that it is there controlled by the people who want to benefit from it. So unless it is open and people own it, that is when you will be talking about a process.
Okay,
that is
just to
owned
be
by
the devil's, no, not the devil's advocate, the viewer or the audience advocate, because here you're making it sound like it's a very hopeless situation. We have a copy of it. Then serialize this, I was going to say this damn document. Serialize this document. Provide it for the viewer and the reader. Pole pole. You know, don't make it sound like, oh, the deep state is in control and the task force.
Not the deep state.
I remember media houses on that specific day when that report was released. All media houses, including NTV, Citizen, KTN, K24, KBC, and also the newspapers. Once it was released, I remember very well, reporters were given certain sectors of that, or certain, what do we call them?
Chapters
of that particular report to look into. And I remember here in our own newsroom, NTV, we had about 7 to 8 stories about what that report is all about. The only thing that has not happened, and I want to agree with SG, is that this report and the processes about it are too opaque to the extent that I will add my own opinion that this is a system or a process of managing political expectations and political figures in the country, not to talk about anything.
Let me just add to that. If you look at the poster that actually had been released before about the meeting in Kisii, actually it was the number of people who had been invited were very minimal, until people started asking a certain question that how come that we are having this meeting and we were not seeing even the faces of other governors who had already been excluded from the process. So from there, it was expanded due to public pressure and the questions that are being raised by the media and other stakeholders who are interested in the process. So that is how it was expanded and more players were brought on the board. But even before that, look at the communique that was released after the meeting. It was a lot of emphasis on the governance structures. And if you look at the BBI, the areas that were supposed to be looking, there's a number broadly around 9 points that we're supposed to be looking at. But the emphasis and the elaborations were made on the areas of governance, on how they want to increase the governance structure of this country. So basically, if you see that, and also knowing politicians, that politicians are the people who are driving the agenda. If you look at some of these processes, have never been driven by the politicians. But now the politicians have hijacked the process, the people who are managing it. And God forbid, you'll realize that when they'll be giving us another version, they're likely to give us another version. I can't predict this. They're likely to give us another version that is going to expand the executive and give more power to certain offices that are going to be in that particular structure that is going to be proposed. So these are the things that we need to start talking about and prepare the public.
Calling it out. And Rosalie, please respond to this, what Wandia Njoya says. BBI is a terrible propaganda document whose goal is to destroy democracy.
I wouldn't put it that way, but what I think is that this document, the people who came up with it, the task force, we've not seen the task force members coming out and speaking, apart from the day some of them spoke at Bombers. And that is what both Murray and SG were talking about, that this guy, it was a closed-knit operation where they were only giving out what they want. And that's why anytime you approach them, they'll tell you approach the 2 joint secretaries. What the media has been fed to the entire process are press statements that they've been releasing and maybe public hearings where media were allowed to access. But beyond that, we've not had a conversation where we sit down with the task force members and they interrogate this report, because that's how the media can also come out and tell the public what exactly is happening. When we have a document that has recommendations without a mechanism of implementation, what do you expect? That's why the political class has hijacked it, because if you look at the documents, it's touching on areas that are protected in law. And that's why you see there's a section talking about a referendum, there's a section talking about a parliamentary process and policies and all that. But if this document had all this, I don't think they will even get the second phase of now the steering committee. And that's why I agree with the SG that maybe this was just a document to test waters, so that the real document comes out when the heirs, people have sorted out each other and they're now ready to face the reality that this is what the document is.
Quickly, either that this was a document to test, or all of us as Kenyans are being managed.
Yes.
Now,
because
media
I believe either there is a document that is coming or this is just something to keep the politicians busy. Because let me just read something that has come in as one of the questions. And I do not associate myself, but this is just a question that I have received.
From who?
Who asked these constitutional changes?
Who asked
in
for
the
it?
previous constitutional change process, we knew it was pressure from the civil society, religious organizations, and international community and etc. So this time round, who complained about the current constitution for us to even think about this process of BBI and even think about a probable change of the constitution?
As a layman, tumefikaje hapa?
But the question is, we had the 20%. Remember, we had the 20% that we said is not good. Let us pass the 80 and deal with the 20. The question here is, have we fully implemented the 2010 Constitution to warrant
the 80%?
The 8%.
But you see, Mark, we are approaching a transition. Only one or probably one. Let's say 1 year away, because next year will be the campaigning for the 2022 elections. So basically, at the moment, we need a trigger for political formations ahead of 2022. So BBI is likely, actually, I'm certain that BBI is the trigger that is going to probably come up with the political formations for 2022.
It's already been called out by people like James Orengo.
Yeah, I even remember Kimani Ichung'wah in one of the bites yesterday said that what they are basically doing is that, just to add on what SG is saying, is there are already political formations that are being worked on.
Okay.
Like, he alluded to the fact that Raila Odinga has already replaced some people in Western and some people in Eastern, and he has actually reinvigorated and added new blood. He's done away with some of the people that he's already worked with in 2013 and 2017, and is now bringing in the young politicians whom he believes are going to help him sell that idea. Whether he's going to run for office or not is basically another question. But I see we've really digressed from what we started.
Yes.
The Kenyans are the ones who drive what we report. And politics is their daily bread. Walk in town. Walk in town, and you'll actually even see them in small groups discussing politics.
Probably not the ones who are being affected by the locust invasion in the country. They would care less about the siasa. Hold on. Wacha tusimame hapo. Tupunge hewa, as they would say in Swahili, or just take a breather, because my director will kill me if I don't.
Just move to the next level with My Network. We invite you for a career fair to be held on 17th and 18th January 2020 at KICC from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The theme is Careers for the Future. Please join us and interact with career guides, industry experts, universities, and tertiary institutions. There will be lots of fun, games, entertainment, and cool prizes to be won. Entry is absolutely free. For more information, call 0707 871 918 or email projects@ke.nationmedia.com. See you there.
I've been on the forefront for evading corruption.
And that's a good place to begin. A lot of this corruption happens because private sector and government are in bed together.
We've had this talk many times.
How drastic should the measures be taken? Because we can't keep on talking.
We don't see any action. The president has the ability to actually fire people.
I like to ask a direct question for direct answers. The heart of humanity, how do you still have it when you're such a hardened soldier?
This is not about you, it's not about your life. It's about the country that I serve.
This is where the real conversation happens.
Welcome back to Press Pass. And yes, some of the responses here, and I hope hakuna mtu ametutusi, but here we go. It's past 10 p.m. I can't get into trouble, I believe. And DNK Daudi, you say, that is what you enjoy selling and Kenyans enjoy reading. So in pursuit of maximizing profit, you have forgotten your responsibilities to your viewers as the fourth estate. Take a stand. There are many sober Kenyans out there. Kennedy, I believe you raised this point. Ukasema, gazeti iliuzwa. In fact, you said oversold. What's your response to this?
Well, let me tell you. We are in this, we are commercial television stations, eh?
Yes. And the paper as well.
Yes, and the paper as well. We are paid by what we sell. I want to be very frank about this. So at the end of the day, if I pounce on a good story, as long as I have taken it through the 5 W's and a H, and I have answered all the questions, I will run it. And that is what will sell. People yesterday bought the Sunday Nation because of the headline it had. And probably it sold out. But that's because I still say that story is alleged. I don't know the truth about it, because there is no documentary evidence. But at the end of the day, politics is what people eat. And I'm telling you, even the responses we are getting here right now for a first show, people are watching because you sold it as a political show. You have political reporters here on this show, and most people are watching just to hear what our comments are. Even the message that I read was from a certain Mheshimiwa who wants to know what is this that we are really talking about, what are the comments. Some of us even probably will be getting messages of threat messages, why did you talk like that? Yeah. But at the end of the day, politics is the daily bread. I speak like that probably because I'm a political reporter.
And it's your daily bread.
And that's where, if I was not a political reporter, then probably NTV will not have employed me. But then again, Kenyans consume politics.
To the other issue of whether this, and I'd take this from the Star article, is Uhuru Ruto marriage over? And this was by Gideon Keter and Benjamin Imende. And there's a part here that they talk about basically the disunity and the cracks within the Jubilee ranks that has now led to people believing that there will be realignment. And there's a part here about there being the security concerns towards the deputy president. And this part here says, amid claims of an assassination plot against the DP, Ruto's security detail that had been drastically reduced was reinstated. The Star, through multiple sources in government, has established that in the coming days, Ruto's security will be downsized again. The move to reduce his bodyguards, which might compromise his security, was agreed on during a high-profile meeting in Mombasa during the December festive season. And this was also part of another story here. Now DP Ruto is locked out of official residence. I believe this is one of the stories that really caught the attention of many, Wanjohi Githai and Kipchumba Some. And yes, was it necessary to bring out this ama tunaongeza volume mali hi-fi?
Me, I look at it this way. We are talking about the presidency. And if you're talking about the presidency, the president is supposed to be a symbol of national unity.
Yes.
And therefore, there are some things that you do not expect the president to say. You don't expect the president to come out in a press conference and say that I don't like William Ruto. Definitely, he will have failed as a leader. But you can only see that through actions and from allies. And even presidents who could take drastic actions like Moi, they never used to say that. You remember Moi is talking about Saitoti. He said, no, Saitoti is a friend. He never said that he does not like Saitoti. Then they let Judge Saitoti. So as a leader, as a president, you don't expect him to come out and say, I don't like William Ruto. You only see such statements through his allies and his actions. And you would see that if it is true, because we are going by the story that was done by Sunday Nation that Ruto was locked out of his official residence. This is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya who is being denied access to official residence. So that actually speaks volume, because I don't believe that it's something that can be decided by someone less than office of the president himself. Probably there must have been some consultation for that to happen. So if it did happen, that it means that the marriage between the two leaders is over. Two, we used to see these two leaders, great leaders, wearing white shirts and red ties and rolling up their sleeves and addressing joint press conferences. We no longer see that. Even nowadays, unless maybe the launch of the BBI, that's when we saw the president and the deputy president sitting together and addressing the nation. And again, the show there and the body language between the two leaders actually spoke volumes that these people are not ready from the same script. I've not seen William Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta launching agenda big four agenda in the recent past, and because they are always addressing different rallies and different gatherings at the same time. So that tells you that this is the president and the deputy president who are forced. Their marriage is forced because they are joined in the ticket. That's the president and the deputy president, and therefore Uhuru has got no choice, Ruto has got no choice but to work together, whether they are agreeing or not. But this is a joint ticket. There is nothing they can do about it. They can only have different strategies on on the way forward, and their allies can also campaign for maybe for the next political formation. But these people, these two leaders are in a joint ticket.
Okay, and this is just to put it out there, not holding brief for anyone, but there seems to be a clear message being sent out that the two at the top, the marriage is not doing well, the home is wrecking, or we're going to see a divorce of sorts. As a political reporter, now to both of you and whoever can go first, is it necessary to, get into these details, especially at this time? Should we just call it out and say these are ways of edging out the deputy president, if it is so? And we're not holding brief for Deputy President William Ruto. Is it necessary?
I think it's necessary because let me take you to the US. You remember when the journalists who cover White House decided to dig deep to the extent that one of the journalists, Jim Acosta, lost his hard pass. And the journalists stood because they were said it is their cardinal role to inform the Americans. So for us, it is our cardinal role as Kenyans to inform, as journalists, to inform Kenyans on what is happening. The president and the deputy president are the leaders of this country. So if we see anything that sends signals that they're not speaking in one voice, and remember, the president has come out openly to support BBI and support other projects and spoken against early campaigns. What did you see on the other side? We've seen the deputy president sustain his campaigns, and we've seen his lieutenants speak about the BBI, and even him, for the first time, he sent out a tweet on the same. So as a journalist, I should not just be a conveyor belt to just tell people that this is what is happening. I also need to dig deep and see, is our president and deputy president together, or the honeymoon is over? Because what we are seeing is like they're no longer speaking together. When the president is in Mombasa, and since I think the beginning of this year, we've not seen them together. The deputy president was in Mombasa. We didn't see any communique that these two people were together. Then me as a journalist, I need to tell Kenyans, and I need to pick what are the allies of the president saying, what are the allies of the other camp saying. And if you had Murathe, who is a close confidant of the president, speaking the other day, he said, as much as the president is not happy with what his deputy is doing, the constitution does not give him a chance to send him packing. The only thing he has is to stay with him until 2022. And maybe that is why we are seeing all these signals coming up, where we are seeing things that we think that the deputy president is not in one. Because when you hear the deputy president talking about BBI meetings, where is the money coming from? I expected the deputy president to summon the ministers who have been attending this meeting and just call them out and tell them, okay, who is funding this meeting? But expecting a whole deputy president to go to a meeting and rant, then that just tells you things are not okay.
Good. There's a so what. You're telling me this so what as a political reporter?
You need to decipher for yourself. At the end of the day, my work is not as a political reporter, because you will also realize that it is only in politics that journalists do not get awards. But at the end of the day, it is not my work to tell you what is happening. It's the same as President Uhuru Kenyatta, what he is doing. President Uhuru Kenyatta, you cannot tell me that he does not watch TV or read the newspapers to know that there is a section of his officers who are probably persecuting the deputy president. He does know, but he's not gone out to speak against it.
And the same for the deputy president.
And the same for the deputy president. So I want to associate with myself with the comments that Obala is saying, that you do not need, it's not rocket science to know that there's a problem. And if the president was not aware of what is happening to his deputy president, then he would have called out these people, but he has not called them out to mean that he is in full knowledge of what is happening, and probably they're either one, pushing him out, or two, as I said earlier, playing a game to endear him to his supporters. Because I come from that region and probably have gone there, and these are my comments, and you will hear how people talk about the political landscape. You will hear what they want about 2022. You will hear them ask what has happened, what changed. Until we are told that, then we will keep on to what we were told.
Yes.
But then again, it's politics, Mark. It's politics.
Yes.
And a story done by Olive Barrows, one of our reporters, about the curse of the DP, one of the people that were interviewed in that story said that there is nowhere in the world where the president has supported their deputy to ascend to the seat which they held. So probably it's just what has happened worldwide.
Okay, let's take a break at this point and then get back to whether we can take a position as media and call out. If we see rubbish, if we see hogwash in this whole talk about BBI, call it out. And this is not necessarily going against our patriotic call as a Kenyan media, but to stand for the audience, the Mwananchi. Stay with us.
APU offers international students opportunities to study at an affordable cost. APU is recognized for its commitment in offering top-notch digital technology courses. For free application services, contact our local representative or visit their offices in Nairobi and Mombasa.
Looking to enjoy sumptuous meals and drinks at affordable rates? Welcome to Nasco's. Our diverse menu gives you a variety to choose from. Visit us at Veteran House 4th floor, Moi Avenue, or along Mombasa Road at the Nation Printing Press Center. We offer outside catering service and do home and office deliveries. For inquiries or to place an order, call 0700-613-902 or email info@nascos.co.ke. Nation Staff Consumer Society Limited. Enjoy our hospitality.
I hope hujakuja hapa kuturingia hiyo nyumba yako ya kijusuru penye unakotanga takataka.
Point of correction. Hiyo nyumba ni release.
Niko na mradi mwingine nataka kushughulikia. Sasa wewe unadai kwa mangapi hapa?
Mimi nafaa kuuliza unadai mangapi?
Ukiingia hapa kwa hii gate, huko umeona pale pameandikwa na chokora salau.
Ai, serious ya witi. Kama walikuwa wameandika hivyo, na wewe ulikupaliwa acha hapa ndani.
This Jacob, unajua ni Krotas alikuwa na mabwana wawili.
What about Krotas? Na Krotas je?
Nimekukanya kumuita mbebu. Katafuta mashokora wenzako huko waite mbebu. Krotas. Tusaka kameenda tunaweza ongea.
Do I know you? Ndabishana na ile siku taoga. Afadhali mimi nafaa kuoga mwili peke yake na niko sawa. Wewe unafaa kuoga mwili na akili na bado utafuta pesa.
Nikishika chakula yangu mnanawa mkono kwanza. Ama kuna place kunauzwa gloves hapa karibu?
Pia tujui sana, lakini nimesikia hapa chini kuna mahali panauzwa common sense.
Welcome back to Press Pass. Nesh the Monster, you say, as you're following about reading your own copy of the BBI. I was in high school when we were talking about 2010 Constitution. I had 3 copies. I read and analyzed BBI imefichwa kama M-Pesa balance ya Kenyan ladies. Celine, you said, I don't know what that means. I don't know which ladies you're dealing with. But yeah, Celine says politicians in Kenya always win their respective seats by divisions. BBI is going contrary to their way. That's why noise towards BBI report is increasing by the day, you say. And yes, Jacob Abere, you say politics is necessary ingredient in news making, headlines, gossips, hence readers enjoy such. Ntomiaka, you say BBI is not meant to build political bridges come 2022 and cares nothing about the Mwananchi. Sijui kwa nini imekuwa deleted. And yes, eventually, yes, Sir Jim, you say eventually and openly to all, BBI will turn out as a political infrastructure for some political figures to achieve their political objectives for 2022. Our viewers, our audience, our readers, our listeners are not dormant or passive viewers or audience. They don't just take what we tell them, they can perceive for themselves. As you have said, it's not rocket science. So if collectively we can take a position, as we did before the 2010 Constitution Amendment and the, swearing it in and into force, we had a common position, so to speak, towards the Constitution. We felt it was a good thing. Do you feel that we can take a common position on this BBI document after going through it all, and people are saying we need to read it all ourselves, and say, guys, we've been taken for a ride, or this is what they want to use it for, and this is what we think is a way, like an editorial?
Definitely, yes, we need to, because it has been done before. If you look at when people are auditing the work of the media and the current generation of journalists, we are always being compared with our seniors who took positions during the struggle for multi-party politics, and even the review of the 2002 elections. The media took a position that we need change, we need to get Khan out of power so that we can start afresh. So the media has got an obligation to take a stand that is in the best interest of the country, the best interest of the public, so that the public can make an informed choice. So if the public believes that the media has given them the accurate and an objective analysis and taken a position on BBI, then when this document is taken to them, they're also able to make an informed choice whether they want BBI or not. Certainly, the media cannot play in the gallery, whereby we play in the periphery, that we want people to make their own choice. Journalists, even in an important process like this one, that actually is going to shape the future of this country, the media has an obligation to take a stand, so long as the stand is not partisan. The stand is based on facts, is accurate, fair, and balanced, and it is able to help the public. The stand must be in the best interest of the public, not in the best interest of the politicians.
Who decides the best interest of the public? Because we even have people within the media house who support one side or the other. Let's not kid ourselves. We vote. Yeah, many of us vote at least.
You see, Mark, all of us have gone through journalism schools.
Yes.
And we know what objectivity means. We know what accuracy means. We know what fair comment means. We know what balanced story means. So all of us actually go to the same school. We are taught the same principle, and therefore we are supposed to be guided by that. Secondly, all of us as journalists, we are guided by code of conduct for practice of journalism that actually stipulate what a journalist is supposed to do and what a journalist is not supposed to do. If we are able to stick to that, we are able to help the public.
Okay, but doesn't that go contrary to objectivity? Because either way, if we take the side of going against the BBI or supporting it, it will go contrary to someone's views, and we will be accused of supporting one or the other. Then that goes against the objectivity. Or are we getting it wrong in understanding?
I think, Mark, what the media should not do here is to take opinion or give their own opinion. But we can start the conversation as we have started now and let the public drive the agenda. Now, since I've had an opportunity to interact with this document, whether they are breached or they will work on it, there are sections, if you read the law, and we brought it out, those sections that are actually protected in law. And if you look at, for example, the structure of government, this document talks about the introduction of a prime minister. It's talking about the introduction of mixed cabinet, bringing in leader of government business and official leader of opposition. If you look at the constitution that we have, it's a pure presidential system. So a pure presidential system, where do you juggle in between leader of majority, leader of minority, and bringing all these people together? Now that one tells you that even for a layman, that it requires a referendum, because it's not something that can be done through a parliamentary process from my end as a journalist. Now, the proposals also talk about increment of county allocation from the current at least 15 to 35. Governors have been pushing for 45% of the revenue raised. Again, that one needs a popular initiative. You have to take it to the people. It's not something that can be done through a parliamentary process. We are talking about turning the constitutional commissions into part-time. Already you are touching again another section that is protected in law. So you see, the only thing that the media can actually do is to alienate these sections and tell Kenyans, as much as this is what is proposed, these are the processes that are required. Again, if you go to parliament, we lack a referendum bill or a referendum law. So when we hear our politicians talking about having a referendum by June, the question we should raise to them, do you have an act
and is it
to enact this, to fast track this process? So for me, I think this is a conversation that we need to have, because this report does not have an implementation procedure.
Kennedy, do we honestly put them on the spot when they make such aspersions that we'll have a referendum by June? Do you put it to them, Mheshimiwa, that's impractical? Do you actually push back on that?
On that particular day, and I remember who brought out that particular angle, but you also have to realize that when politicians do speak as they speak sometimes, there's some information that may have been privy to them.
True.
We may call them out as we would want to call them out, but there are those of the opinion that even with the new mandate of this, of the new mandate of the BBI task force, now the implementation committee, is that they have until the 30th of June, which is the end of the financial year for the government. But nothing stops them from starting their work tomorrow and finishing it the week after. Then they kickstart the other processes. There are those who believe that this process is not possible, and there are those who believe that this process is possible. So when you call them out like Senior Counsel James Orengo will tell you, and I remember on that day we sent our senior reporter Seth Olale, and Seth Olale asked those questions, and when he did ask that question, there was a chronology of events that was given to him that fit into the 30th of June date. So we can say what we will say, but at the end of the day, there are some pieces of information that are very privy to them, or there is a certain narrative that they want to drive. And this probably, one, they might have been wanting to put pressure. Even in the bites or the sound bites that we've put, Raila also picked it up and said that we are going to have a referendum by June. What does he know? Is he piling pressure? Does he know something? Or do we also need to put him somewhere and question? He's also gone ahead to think it through. And I remember having an interview with him once, and he said that it is only going to cost 2 billion shillings and nothing more. So all these complexities and putting them to task, do they even give you an opportunity these days to do that? They call you for a press conference, and I remember even something that happened in Parliament, and they read what they need to read, and they stand up and go and say, no questions. So we do our bit where we can do it.
Do we have all the pieces to verify whether this is a process that is somewhat predetermined to a certain end?
You know, Mark, this is how these people are driving this process. You know, like Murede is saying, obviously there has to be a strategy that is being implemented. There has to be activities that have to be implemented within given time. But now the problem that, given that this is a political process, you might not have these documents, because this is a process where people meet in an office, they brainstorm, and they agree that this is the way forward. So sometimes it becomes very difficult to lay your hands on a physical document that actually is going to be implemented. If it is there, such a document actually sometimes is closely guarded, by the drafters and the implementers. So what journalists are actually exposed to is just the conversation we can have, which we usually have with them as journalists and politicians. And they will tell you that, oh, you know, this is what we are planning. As much as he's telling you, but you might not have the privileges of getting to lay your hands on a document that is being implemented.
They want you. They let you know as much as.
Yeah, they let you exactly. They'll just let you know. So is you as a journalist, what you are supposed to do is now start verifying, talking to as many politicians who could be privy to that document, so that we're able to piece together a story. But a document may exist or may not exist. But these people, there is no way they. I don't think so. Even if you ask the president, that what criteria did you use to give these people up to the end of June to come up with their term? So definitely he must have brainstormed with his team, and he must have been told that if this is what we intend to do between this period and this period, so that we're able to complete the work.
You know, Mark, it's very interesting that the other person whom they shook hands with is the one who's going around and saying that we will have a referendum by June. Then the mandate that has been gazetted is June. So the other question that we were brainstorming is, what is the practicability of us having a referendum by June? So does it mean that there is another report that had been prepared but was not released and will be released? Or are we going to see them go around the country again, collecting more views on what they already wrote? So these are some of the questions. And one of the partners saying that we are going to have it by June, it's an interesting thing. Me, the only thing that I'm waiting for right now, Mark, is this BBI tours that President Uhuru Kenyatta promised in my presence in Kiambu when he was there to open a dispensary. And he said that you will see me when I start coming to Mount Kenya. I'm really waiting to see what the messaging is going to be. Was he saying that in the heat of the moment? Was he just saying that to give hope to some politicians? But I'm really waiting. He said that he's going to come to my county, Meru. I'm waiting.
But you see, Mark, let me tell you.
Yeah, let Rosalind chime in on this one.
I think what we need to also discuss here is, even if we are to have a referendum, if you look at the Constitution, there are only two ways to approach a referendum, either a referendum question or a referendum bill. In this case, what we have, the BBI report, it's a strange document, even if we were to start it with a parliamentary process. It means we have to have, again, a committee of experts to go through it, or have a select committee in parliament to, again, go through the document so that it can start through parliament. If we decide to go it the popular initiative, then we need the signatures. Then we need this document to go to the counties. And with the counties, the time frame is there, 3 months. So within that time, if you look at it before the counties consider this document, and then it's forwarded to the National Assembly and Senate, which again, we don't have a time frame. And that's why I was talking about the referendum law, so that it can actually define all this. So unless where we are seated, these MPs are going to go to parliament next month, and they begin immediately with the law, or tell us how they're going to do it, because everybody is flying their own thing, yet they know what the Constitution
talks about. You see, Mark, I think like he was saying that some of us have been in these streets for some time. We were there when National Accord and Reconciliation Act was being enacted. You need a week to do that. So having a referendum between now and June is possible, because all you need, if you want to put in place, and if there is enough political support, enough political mobilization, these are the things that can be done within a week. Then you take the document to the people, then you campaign for a month, or you allow Kenyans to read it for a month, then you take it to the vote. So the time frame is this. I don't see any big problem with the time frame. The problem is that how will the public own the document, so that they are able to vote on a document that actually they own and they fully support.
Okay.
Will we do it with the current IBC that we have? Because remember, again, we have a lame duck IBC that only has 3 commissioners. Actually, they cannot pass a resolution, a plenary, because they don't have the number. Again, we require Parliament to pass the IBC Act, either to reduce the number or have a select committee that will recruit the members. I don't think we'll have this.
But
unless...
Rosalind, my point is, so long as in what we've seen in this country, so long as there is a good political support to any process, having IBC officials in office within a week or two is possible. We've seen how they have gone.
We've seen how Parliament vote on publication period to be reduced.
You can see how what they just go there. You table a bill, then you move a motion to reduce the publication on the maturity date to 2 days or 2 hours. Then you debate it the following day. You
extend the time of sitting.
Then the time of sitting. So within 2 days, you're able to get all these things. So what we are saying is, so long as there is enough political support, there is enough public participation, all these things can be done by June 30th.
But there are so many gray areas. I will say there are so many gray areas that may not necessitate probably a referendum being held by June. I don't see that scenario.
All right.
But either way.
Kazi kwetu, there's a lot to figure out, and this is something else I need to give us an opportunity, and I can't hear my director, I don't know if you've fallen asleep, but this is something else that has played out in the last week, and we need to have the opportunity really quick of saying whether we can call the government out on this one, not that we support the people involved, and that is on the court orders. Last week, a Nairobi court ordered the release of Gatondo South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria from custody in an assault case, but the orders were defied. Kuria was arrested on Friday for allegedly assaulting a woman at Royal Media Services Studios on December 8th, 2018. He was released on Saturday, but then again today, the court has denied Kuria anticipatory bail in assault case, setting plea taking for tomorrow. This is one of the comments that were on Friday, I believe.
They have not yet obeyed the court orders, because if they had obeyed the court orders, they would have released me on the bail of 50,000, which I posted yesterday. So the first thing we are going to do on Monday is to charge the police with obtaining money with false pretense, because they obtained my 50,000 on the pretense that they are going to release me, and that is a big issue, because now I have posted bail twice.
And last week as well, Tuesday, that bite was actually on Saturday upon his release. Last week, Tuesday, lawyer and activist Miguna was on his way back to Kenya, but was blocked by 2 airlines that cited alerts given to them by the Kenyan government. The government has outrightly defied High Court orders to allow the facilitation of Dr. Miguna's return, although it says it has not. Are we being lied to in broad daylight and relaying the same lies to Kenyans unchallenged? This was a comment from ODM leader Raila Odinga on the fiasco there.
We want a game of inclusivity. We want everybody. And I want you to know that nobody fears Miguna. Arudi sio? Sio? Hey, kwa hiyo nataka hii.
It is therefore upon the petition to move the relevant government agencies and apply to be issued with a new generation passport.
The position is very clear. The state made an order that Miguna can even enter using his own ID card. He does not have to enter using a passport at all.
Miguna is just a vagabond in foreign capitals. And there's nothing worse than a Kenyan or a person of any nationality undergoing such humiliation.
And Moses Kuria finds himself in a similar situation where court order has not been obeyed to release him. That was his experience on Friday. And yes, guys, let's mobilize our thoughts and not take too much time.
Okay, let me say that. Yes. But before I say that,
how can we call this out?
Yes, I'm being reminded here that the call for the referendum and change of the constitution actually was made by the workers. Francis Atwell is reminding me here that this was a statement that was made by him during May Day, so that we can change the constitution and bring stability.
Well, he's answering Patrick Munene, the member of parliament for Chuka Igamba Ngombe,
yes.
who
So
sent me the message.
Yeah, so he's saying that basically this is the workers actually who came out and said that we need to change the governance of this country so that we're able to have peace and stability to grow the economy so the workers can benefit from it. But having said that,
you're not holding brief.
I'm not holding brief. You know, people.
Mobilize. You're talking too much. Mobilize your thoughts.
Okay. Responding to your last point is that, yes, we as the media, we were in these two cases, we are the conveyor belt. The Miguna and Moses Kuria. I'll start with the Miguna, and I've held this position before. The number one, Miguna holds one of the most powerful passports in the world that no one can stop him wherever he's going. Number two, in international travel, when you are starting your journey, your destination is known. So if Lufthansa allowed him to board in Canada, knowing very well that he was going to Kenya, that means that he should have stopped from Canada. So there is a story that Miguna is not telling us, so we've been just carrying what he's telling us. He should have told us at what point, why did Lufthansa allow him to board in Canada? Because they will always ask you, what is your final destination? In this case, was Kenya, when he was boarding in Canada. So he's not telling us what happened in between. Because sometimes you want to use a Canadian passport. If you hold Canadian passport, it's one of the most powerful passports that actually you can always use. Having said that, coming to the Moses Kuria, how do you enforce a court order? Because if you look at the time that a court order was released and Miguna was taking this court order to the police station, it means that when you get it, the police must also use their sources to ensure that a court order that is being served is a genuine one. You don't just come with a court order and give it to police and they take it. So, but the journalists did not ask that. The journalists did not give police to explain, did you verify or why did you refuse to accept and receive the court order? So at that point...
Orders from above, it was cited.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, orders from above, but that is a statement that was made. Did you hear them telling journalists orders from above? Because that is a statement that was given to the media by the politicians who are involved in the fracas. So that means that even the journalists ought to have gone to find out what happened, because you can't go to a police station with a court order at 7 p.m. and tell the police that here's the court order, then expect the police to accept it, because the police must also use their own mechanism to verify the authenticity of the document. But journalists did not go there. So that's what I'm saying. In these two cases, journalists actually acted as conveyor belts. What is being said and that's what they are giving the public.
You have organized your thoughts. Yes, to you, Oban.
I disagree with Eric a bit, because if Miguna boarded his flight from Canada coming to Kenya, and then he reaches Berlin and he says he's been blocked, obviously you have to again board and they will check your traveling documents, unless when he was in Berlin he did not produce his passport or something. But remember, Miguna talked about a red alerts, which I don't think our government has refused. They said, if you remember what the government spokesman said, he said he was unruly. So, and Miguna asked, so if I travel to Kenya, was I going to stop being unruly? So there is a chess game here.
Exactly.
That the media has been
what I'm saying, Rosaline,
yes.
This red alert, yes, it was issued and the government has not refused.
Yes.
The government said the red alert was issued in 2018.
Yes.
So what I'm asking, and the question that I'm still asking, at a point of boarding from his first, where he was starting his journey in Canada, was Lufthansa not aware that there was red alert? They only get to know that there was red alert when he was now leaving Germany to Kenya. It means that even if they knew or they not, there is something that we are not being told.
But remember, even the Air France also did the same. So it's, and he said it is all airlines. Remember when the court order was issued, the director of immigrations actually said, we will comply. And that will facilitate his entry. And that is why even today they had someone, the Attorney General, to come and explain. If you remember the former Chief Justice, he talked about court orders must be obeyed no matter how idiotic they are. And this is not the first time we're being treated to this. It is just something that the musical chairs have just turned. Maybe the people suffering now are the people who are cheering them. And they always say, where there is no rule of law, there is anarchy. So they are only being treated to the music that they were enjoying. So I don't think that there is anything here, because they cheered, the people facing it now, cheered the government then.
And on that point, Kenna, are we carrying a celebratory tone, especially now that it's happened to Moses Kuria and the side that's supporting him, and they are cited as previously supporting the force of the officers in, bringing down or suppressing the opposition back in the day? Are we not treating this with the seriousness that it deserves by kind of celebrating Kulayo, at Kulayo?
You know, first of all, I want to thank you for not having asked me about that question. I've done a lot of matatus, Until last week, I did not know that Lufthansa was an airline. I thought it was a place.
This is Oduor.
Actually,
This is Oduor.
My editor, Warungu, is the one who was telling me that I need to travel.
That's true, by the way.
But anyway, back to your question. I wouldn't say that we are celebrating or anything, but to me as a political reporter, it is a juicy story.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's a juicy story. Because it's a story that has not just been done here, but it has also been done almost by every media house, that the same people who are celebrating in their posts on social media, in their speaking and sound bites that were captured, they're the same people who are celebrating that other time, and they're the ones who are on this other end at this particular time. So I will say that to me, it's not about celebrating what is happening. It's just a juicy story. It's just calling it out as it is.
But we can call out the government on, he's saying we've been acting like conveyor belts, not really questioning the details. But we can call out the government indeed if it is disobeying.
We will call out the government, and that's why we will follow up these cases. Remember, one of the things that I've taught myself in the short period that I've been in this world is that there's a probability that if you fought the government, you will never win. Number two, the government always has data on everybody. It's only that it chooses when to release the same data.
It's something, yes.
You know, so you have to be very careful that, remember now, for Moses Kuria, it's a case that happened sometime.
December.
Yeah, but look at it, when was it released? You will just realize even when the police will say that they've just put it on ice until when you speak, and that is when they will release it. So it's, at the end of the day, it's a juicy story for me. There's a probability that somebody has that on me and they might just release it some other day. But you never know.
But Mark, I think as the media, we've got a responsibility to fight for a just society.
Yes.
We're not supposed to celebrate. Maybe like he was saying, we can only play out these things as a juicy story. But when someone's rights are being violated, actually we need to stand against that, as much as we also remind them that this is what you used to stand for. Yes. So when you are championing for a just society, don't do it because at that particular time the circumstances favor you, but you are doing it for a society that actually will benefit from it for ages to come. So in this particular case, as much as there were those fracas, but I don't believe that we should celebrate as the media when someone is being violated. What we can do, like I'm saying, we can point out where there are loopholes, where there are questions where people are supposed to answer.
And actually, just to support him, do you know, even these politicians, and we say that we actually do interact with them, some of them say these statements because they want to be arrested and resuscitate their careers. There's a probability some of these people who have even been arrested and charged are going to have just won another term. So these politicians, these are just games that they play.
Aren't you the one giving them another term by, you know, letting them play out their shenanigans?
But we are reporting what should be reported.
Because it's
juicy. Do you want me not to report that Moses Kuria has been arrested? Then people will watch it on another station, and they won't watch me.
If you do know, if you have the background information that perhaps this guy is just playing it out to his favor.
We do know that they are playing it out to the favor, but at the end of the day, that's not our work to tell it as it is. These are politicians, and politicians are media animals. That's where they thrive. The games they play at each other, this is where they play them at, because they are speaking to the masses. It's not every day that you will move your people, you will move from Nairobi to Lodwar to Manyani or to anywhere, but they do rely on the media to give their information. And if we do not give it, they will go to their social media pages. Look at what Trump is doing.
But yes, I would say we shouldn't just be conveyor belts for them. And
we are not conveyor belts.
I get
it's not being conveyor belts.
Yes.
What we are doing is that we are reporting it as it is.
All right.
Is it true that he has been arrested? Yes. Is there a charge that he has been arrested on? Yes. Let him go to court and prove their innocence.
Okay.
And use their lawyers, and that's basically what we are saying.
But not play to their populist.
No.
Okay.
That's what I was saying, that it's good to interrogating also in a matter of procedures. Even when you are serving a court order, what is the procedure? If you are talking about international travels, what are the procedures? What happens? Is it possible or not? We are able to explain to the viewers so they're able to understand. So that as much as there is this standoff, we must also know that there is standover, that these hurdles that actually must be removed for this process to continue, but which we failed to actually do.
I'd like to appreciate one of our colleagues here at Nation Media Group. He's James Kahonge. He wrote a piece detailing some of the cases where court orders have not been honored. Miguna Moses Kuria case add to a long list of defied court orders. If you could just visit the Daily Nation website, and you'll be able to see that particular story. And yes, James Kahonge, he details quite a number of cases, and this is just one instance of being able to call out when the government is, going into anarchy, which is not good for any one of us. As James Orengo had said once, and this was in 2017, this is in the piece by Gideon and Benjamin on The Star in their opening line. One afternoon in January 2017, as the Senate debated the election laws, CS James Orengo warned the Jubilee side that one day the government will eat them. Hey, Kennedy, is Kikulacho kiungoni mwako applicable here?
Yes, it is very much applicable.
All right, let's end it at this point. I thank you for your time and for your contribution. It's been hot. It's been a good one to start with.
But please ask people to take me abroad.
You need to know Lufthansa.
I need to go to that place called Lufthansa.
So that we don't embarrass ourselves any further. Thank you so much, Kennedy Moredi, Roslino Obala, and Eric Odor as the Secretary General of the Kenya Union of Journalists, one of those conferences, Saidi and Thank you very much, lady and gentlemen, for your time, and I've really enjoyed this episode. And yes, keep the conversation going online as we always do. We end with something on the international scene, and following the Iranian government's admission to have been behind an Iranian surface-to-air missile which brought down Ukraine International Airlines Flight 752 last week, killing at least 176 people on board, including a large number of Iranian nationals studying overseas. The Iranian government claimed it was a mistaken strike carried out in the shadow of retaliatory Iranian missile barrage on U.S. positions in Iraq, an admission that followed an almost 4 days of denial by Iran that its military was behind the crash. Now, the Washington Post had an article that read, Iranians are furious at their regime, but Trump still bans them. And going by the headline, it seems Iranians feel betrayed by their own government days after they displayed an unprecedented level of unity and popular support when millions of people poured on to the streets all over the country to mourn the death of Soleimani. And the article continues and reads, anger at the regime's misinformation lit a spark. Many Iranians are furious both with the apparent attempt to hide the truth and the earlier decision by the authorities not to stop civilian flights when the heightened risk of war with the U.S. had put the country's air defense system on high alert. Let's look at the BBC World, and it says here in their article, Iran plane crash, why this could be a watershed moment. The script by the BBC goes to show that due to international pressure, Iran admitted it was behind the missile attack, and it partly reads, while Iran initially denied responsibility, US and Canada intelligence agencies soon uncovered evidence that one of the country's surface-to-air missiles had caused the accidents. Let's forward on to the CNN Politics article, and this goes, majority of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of Iran and feel less safe, the poll showed. This particular one by CNN Politics. Now, part of the article read that a majority of Americans said they disapprove of President Donald Trump's handling of Iran and feel less safe, according to an ABC News Ipsos poll released on Sunday. Last article, let's fast forward to that. It's by Al Jazeera, which tries to decipher what the tension between the U.S. and Iran means to the rest of the world. Who stands to lose and who stands to gain? What do tense U.S.-Iranian relations mean for China, North Korea? And as you can see there, it partly reads, deepening fractures in the relationship between the United States and Iran pose economic headaches for China, but create strategic opportunities for North Korea, experts say, one of the many reverberations from the week-long crisis. And that's international radar, a big story that is still catching the headlines internationally, and that's where we end our Press Pass episode, our first Press Pass episode. And you can subscribe to the Press Pass channel on our NTV YouTube page and get to follow our conversations.
I've actually said they will take me to a friend of mine called Lotuk from Parliament says that the next trip is going actually to add me to the list.
The next trip, let's changia our brother here.